My mother had already hired a notary by the time she told me I had agreed to give my half of Grandma's duplex to my brother. The transfer papers were spread across Grandma's dining table. My name was typed under a blank signature line, and a black pen sat on top of the page. Around the table were 2 of my aunts, Derek's wife, Melissa, 3 cousins, and my mother, Carol. They were supposed to be there to help sort Grandma's things. Instead, they were there to watch me sign. Mom pushed the pen toward me. "Just do it, Leah. Derek needs the house. You don't." I stared at her. I never agreed to give him my half. Her face tightened. She had already told everyone I had, and now I was embarrassing her by saying the truth out loud. Before she could answer, Derek came out of Grandma's bedroom. He looked toward the empty spot under the window where Grandma's cedar jewelry case had always been. Then he looked at me. "The jewelry's gone," he said. Funny how that happened right after Leah started asking what everything was worth. Nobody called me a thief. They didn't have to. Aunt Paula pulled her purse closer to her chair. One of my cousins stopped writing labels on a cardboard box. Melissa folded her arms and looked down at the table. I looked at Derek. "You're saying I took it?" "I'm saying you were in that room alone last week." Mom stepped in with the voice she used when she wanted an accusation to sound reasonable. "No one is accusing you. We're just asking questions." I picked up the transfer paper. The duplex had belonged to Grandma Evelyn for more than 30 years. After she died, probate took months. When it was over, Derek and I each owned half. That part wasn't confusing. It was written on the deed. What my family found confusing was why I still expected my half to count. Derek had a wife, 2 kids, and a construction business that had been about to turn around for almost 3 years. I was 36, single, and worked a hybrid office job for a regional grocery company. In my family, Derek had responsibilities. I had spare time. Mom pointed at the paper. "You told us you weren't going to live here." "I'm not." "Then why are you holding this up?" "Because not living here doesn't mean I'm giving it away." Derek leaned against the bedroom doorway. "You always have to turn everything into some technical argument." "It's half a house." "It's Grandma's house." "It was. Now it belongs to both of us." Mom looked around the room like I had forced her to explain something ugly in front of guests. "Please don't make this embarrassing." That sentence had controlled me for most of my life. When Derek wrecked Dad's truck at 19, Mom told me not to embarrass him by asking why he'd been drinking. When he borrowed money from Grandma and stopped paying it back, I was told not to make things awkward at Thanksgiving. When Dad died and Derek took most of his tools before we finished going through the garage, Mom said he needed them for work. I complained, Mom cried, and Derek stopped answering me for a week. Then I let it go. That was how our family worked. Derek needed something, Mom explained why, and I was expected to understand. Grandma's duplex was the first thing too big to quietly disappear. It was a red brick 2-family house outside Columbus. Grandma had lived upstairs and rented out the lower unit. The place needed work, but it was paid off. Derek wanted to move his family upstairs, renovate the lower unit, rent it out, and use the property to help refinance business debt. That was the plan he had explained to everyone except the person who owned half the building. I looked at the transfer paper again. They weren't offering to buy me out. They wanted me to hand my share over for nothing. I asked Mom, "Who told the document company I agreed to this?" She looked at Derek. That was answer enough. I took out my phone and photographed the page. Mom reached for it. "Why are you taking pictures?" "Because my name is on it." "You're making this look worse than it is." I photographed the blank signature line, then turned to the notary. "Were you told I had already agreed to sign?" The woman looked uncomfortable, but she answered, "I was told everyone was ready to complete the transfer today." "I'm not." She closed her journal and put her stamp back in her bag. That sound changed the room more than any speech could have. The whole setup depended on me being too ashamed to stop it. Mom's voice got sharper. "For God's sake, Leah, your brother has 2 children. His children weren't asked to sign away half a house." Derek pushed away from the doorway. "This is bullshit. Nobody is stealing from you." I held up the paper. Then what do you call this? He didn't answer that. He went back to the missing jewelry instead. He said I had been asking about appraisals. He said I had taken photos in Grandma's bedroom. He said the cedar case had been there before I went in and was gone now. The family didn't need proof. They already had a version of me they liked better than the facts. Leah cared about money. Leah counted everything. Leah made family business official. Leah didn't need as much as Derek. Mom lowered her voice. If you didn't take the jewelry, then we'll figure that out, but don't use this to punish his kids. I set the pen down. I'm not signing. Then I left. I wish I could say I felt strong in the car. I didn't. My hands shook all the way home. I wondered if I was being selfish. I wondered if Grandma would have wanted Derek's kids in the duplex. I wondered if I should just let him have it and move on. That was the problem with being called difficult for years. Even when someone put a deed in front of you and expected free property, part of you still asked whether saying no was too much. By the time I got home, Mom had created a family group chat called Evelyn's House. Her first message said Derek was trying to keep Grandma's home in the family. Her second said I had suddenly changed my mind. Then she mentioned the jewelry. She wrote, "No one should jump to conclusions, but the timing is upsetting." That was Mom's specialty. She could spread an accusation while pretending to discourage it. Within 20 minutes, relatives were asking me to think about Derek's children. Nobody asked whether I had agreed to the transfer. Nobody asked why a notary had been invited before I said yes. Nobody asked why Derek expected my share for free. I typed a long response, then deleted it. I wrote one sentence instead. My phone lit up with a message to the family group. I did not agree to transfer my half, and I did not remove Grandma's jewelry. I'm requesting the records now. Then I muted the chat. The estate sale company was called Second Chapter Services. Mom had hired them after probate because the family couldn't agree on what to sell, what to keep, and what belonged to whom. Marisol Vega managed Grandma's account. I emailed her that afternoon and asked for the full inventory, every form showing property removed from the house, any appraisal records, and the electronic lock history. I didn't know what I was looking for yet. I only knew Derek had lied about one thing already. He had told the whole family I agreed to give him the house. There was no reason to assume the jewelry story was cleaner. Marisol called the next morning. Her voice was calm and careful. I need to ask you something. Did you authorize Derek to remove the cedar jewelry case? I sat up at my kitchen table. No. There was a pause. He signed it out 4 days ago. I stopped breathing for a second. What do you mean, signed it out? She explained that every valuable item removed from the duplex required a release form. Derek had asked the company to appraise the case and its contents. A few days later, he signed a form and took it for family safekeeping. Did he return it? Not through us. I looked at the family group chat on my phone. Derek had let everyone believe I took something he had signed out himself. I asked Marisol to send me the documents. The email came less than an hour later. The first page showed a photo of Grandma's cedar case. Under the photo was a list of what had been inside: her wedding bracelet, 2 rings, a sapphire brooch, old coins, and a handwritten note kept under the tray. The appraisal estimate was just over $42,000. The next page was the release form. Derek Mercer, May 6th, his signature at the bottom. I read it 3 times. Then I checked the lock history. Second Chapter had installed an electronic lockbox with separate codes, so every entry had a name and a time. Derek had gone into the duplex on Friday night at 8:14 and stayed 43 minutes. At the family meeting, he had said he hadn't been back since the first walkthrough. I saved everything, then called the attorney who had handled Grandma's estate. I didn't ask him to destroy anybody. I didn't need a legal showdown. I asked 2 simple questions. Could my half of the duplex be transferred without my signed approval? And could Derek rent, renovate, or borrow against the whole property without me? The answer to both was no. The attorney said he would email that to me in plain language. That mattered because I was tired of explaining basic facts while my family acted like my tone was the real problem. Before the email arrived, Derek moved forward anyway. On Monday morning, my phone sent an alert that someone had opened the duplex lockbox. I was in the middle of fixing a payroll issue at work. For a few seconds, I told myself it might be normal. Then I remembered the signed jewelry form. I closed my laptop and drove over. A contractor's truck was in the driveway. Inside, Derek stood with Melissa, a leasing agent, and a man measuring the lower kitchen. Blue tape marked the walls. The leasing agent had a clipboard with rent estimates, and the cabinet doors were open. They were planning renovations. Derek looked annoyed when he saw me. "You didn't need to come over." "I got an access alert." So why is there a leasing agent in a house we own together?" He sighed. "We're just getting numbers." "You don't get numbers with contractors after I told you I wasn't transferring my share." "You don't even plan to live here." "Neither do you. Not until you own my half." The contractor stopped measuring. The leasing agent looked at Derek. He had clearly told them a different story. Derek said the lower unit could be ready in 6 weeks. The rent would cover repairs. His family could move upstairs before school started. He said every delay cost money and that we had already discussed the plan. We had discussed what he wanted. That was not the same thing. I told the contractor and leasing agent the property had 2 owners and no joint approval had been given. They packed up and left. Melissa followed them outside. Derek stayed in the kitchen. His voice dropped. "You're screwing over my kids because you're pissed at me." "Cut the crap. Your kids are not the ones trying to take my half. You know we can't afford to buy you out right now." "Then you can't afford the whole house right now." He shook his head like I was impossible. "This is why nobody can deal with you." I took out my phone. "Where's Grandma's jewelry?" His face changed. "Not much, just enough. I moved it somewhere safe." "You signed it out, knew what it was worth, and then told everyone I might have taken it." "I never said you stole it." "You made damn sure everybody else did." He looked toward the front window. "I'll bring it back." "When?" "Soon." That's not an answer. He picked up his keys. "I'm not standing here while you turn this into some criminal case." I stepped aside and let him leave. Then I photographed the tape, the contractor's measurements, and the leasing agent's card. I emailed Marisol and asked her to suspend every access code except mine and hers until both owners agreed on a schedule. That was the first time I changed access instead of arguing about respect. Mom called 3 times before I got back to my car. I let every call go to voicemail. That evening, the family chat exploded. Mom said I had humiliated workers and stopped necessary repairs. Derek wrote, "Some people would rather own half an empty house than let family live in it." Aunt Paula asked why I cared so much about property I didn't plan to use. I replied once. My text to the family group said, "No work, leasing, or transfer was approved by both owners. Derek entered with contractors after I refused to sign." I didn't attach the jewelry form, not yet. My family loved to change the story one piece at a time. If I posted one document, Mom would call it a misunderstanding. If I posted the next, Derek would say it was taken out of context. I wanted the dates, signatures, and jewelry in the same room. The attorney's email arrived the next day. It was short. I owned 50%. No transfer could happen without my signature. No lease, major renovation, or financing agreement could cover the whole property without both owners approving it. I forwarded it to Derek and Mom. Mom replied within 5 minutes. "This is family. Why are you involving lawyers?" I wrote back, "Because you involved a notary." Then I stopped. Mom came to my apartment 2 days later. She held a grocery store pie in one hand and another transfer deed in the other. The pie was still in its plastic container. The deed was inside a manila envelope. She put both on my counter. "Can we please handle this like adults?" I looked at the envelope. "You mean privately?" "I mean without making everything ugly." She opened the new deed. This version said Derek would cover future property taxes. There was still no payment for my half. Mom sat down. Your brother handled the jewelry badly. Fine, he shouldn't have moved it without telling everyone. He didn't just move it. He'll return it. He told the family I was the last person who had access. He was upset. He knew exactly where it was. Mom rubbed her forehead. Don't use one stupid decision to punish his children. His children aren't buying my half. Derek is. He can't afford market value. Then he can't afford the whole house. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. You have an apartment. You have a job. You're fine. That doesn't make my property his. For God's sake, Leah, why does everything have to be paperwork with you? Because unofficial is how you put my name on a decision I never made. That was the first time she had no quick answer. Then she reached for guilt. She said Grandma would have wanted the house to stay in the family. She said Dad would have wanted me to help Derek. She said I had always been colder than my brother. I listened. Then she asked the real question. If he brings back the jewelry, will you sign? There it was. The jewelry wasn't being returned because it was wrong to take it. It was being used as a trade. I pushed the deed back. No. Her mouth fell open. No? No more kitchen table deals. Put everything in an email. You're really doing this. You already did it. I'm just not signing. She stood. You're going to regret treating family like strangers. I looked at the deed she had brought into my home with my name already typed on it. Strangers ask before they take something. She left the pie. I threw it away. Marisol scheduled a formal re-inventory for Saturday morning. I asked her to bring the original inventory, the appraisal page, Derek's signed release form, and the lock history. I also told her the cedar case had to be physically present. Derek replied to the scheduling email. This is unnecessary and hostile. I answered with 4 words. Bring the jewelry case. Saturday morning, Grandma's dining room looked almost the same as it had the day they tried to get my signature. Same oval table, same faded wallpaper, same cousins pretending they were there to help. Mom had invited the notary back. That told me she still thought pressure might work if she brought enough people. Aunt Paula and Aunt Denise were there because they had repeated the jewelry accusation. Melissa sat beside Derek. Marisol placed a black binder on the table. The cedar case sat next to it. Derek had brought it back. For a second, I didn't think about the appraisal or the house. I thought about Grandma wearing the sapphire brooch to church. She used to let me touch it when I was little. Mom started before anyone else could. Derek needs this house. Leah doesn't. We've dragged this out long enough. I put the unsigned transfer paper in front of me. Need doesn't transfer ownership. My signature does. Mom started talking about family, but Marisol opened the binder and took out 1 page. Derek, this is your signature. You removed the jewelry case on May 6th. He barely looked at it. I moved it. I didn't steal it. I asked, then why did you tell everyone I was the last person who had it? He looked at Mom. That small look told the truth before he did. He said I had been asking about values. He said I had made the house tense. He said he thought I was going to force a sale. Marisol placed the appraisal page beside the release form. The appraisal came first. Derek knew what the jewelry was worth before he removed it. Then, he let everyone believe I had taken it because I cared about money. Aunt Paula opened the family chat on her phone. She scrolled back through her own messages and stopped talking. Mom tried to move past it. The case is here. Nothing is missing. Can we stop this crap and deal with the house? Marisol opened the case and checked the items one at a time. The bracelet, the rings, the coins, and the sapphire brooch were all there. The handwritten note listed in the appraisal was not. Marisol looked at Derek. There was a note under the tray. He said he hadn't seen it. Melissa turned toward him. Derek. He rubbed his jaw, then took out his wallet. The folded note was inside. He said he kept it because it mentioned the house. Melissa stood up. She didn't yell. She just moved her chair away from him. Marisol unfolded the paper and read the first line. It was a note Grandma had written after meeting with her attorney. Equal means equal, even when one of them thinks need means more. Grandma had underlined equal twice. Mom reached for the note. That was private. Marisol put it into a clear sleeve. It was listed with the estate property. The note didn't change the deed. It didn't need to. The deed already said 50-50. But the note killed the story Mom had been telling. Grandma had not accidentally left Derek too little. She knew exactly how our family worked. Mom tried another angle. She said I was using one bad choice to destroy Derek's future. She said the jewelry was back. She said the family could still move forward if I stopped making everything about dates and signatures. Derek finally snapped. We were trying to get the deed handled before she started picking apart every damn number. I looked at the appraisal page. Before I saw this, he threw up his hands. You were never going to sign once you knew what everything was worth. There it was. No more talk about keeping Grandma's house in the family. No more talk about children. They wanted me to sign before I had the information I needed to say yes or no. The jewelry accusation was supposed to keep me defensive. The relatives were supposed to make me ashamed. The notary was supposed to make the decision feel finished. They didn't care whether I agreed. They just needed my signature. I took the transfer deed and wrote across the signature section in blue ink. I do not consent to this transfer. Then I dated it. The notary closed her journal again. Derek leaned forward. This is such bullshit. I looked at him. Bullshit is signing out Grandma's jewelry, hiding the appraisal, and telling everyone I took it. You're screwing my family over. Your debt is not my damn inheritance problem. Mom said my name like a warning. I didn't look at her. I photographed the marked deed, Derek's release form, the appraisal page, and Grandma's note. Then I emailed them to the attorney from the table. Marisol marked the jewelry case returned. I told everyone the new rules. All old access codes were canceled. Nobody entered the duplex without a scheduled time and an individual code. No contractors, leasing agents, buyers, or tenants came in without approval from both owners. Nothing left the house without a signed form. If Derek wanted my half, he could make a written offer based on an independent appraisal. Mom stared at me. You're going to make your own brother buy you out at market value? Yes. He can't afford that. Then he can't afford the whole house. Nobody clapped. Nobody stood up for me. That was fine. I wasn't there to win the room. I was there to stop them from using it against me. The meeting ended quietly. Aunt Paula deleted 2 messages from the group chat. Aunt Denise asked Marisol for a copy of the inventory list. Melissa left in her own car. Derek stayed long enough to tell Mom I had ruined everything. Mom stayed at the dining table with my refusal written across the deed. By Monday, Mom had a new version of the story. I had technically won, she told relatives, but I had failed the family. I corrected the facts once. My final message to the family group said, I did not agree to transfer my share. Derek removed the jewelry before suggesting I had taken it. All future property decisions will be in writing. Then I left the chat. The attorney sent Derek and Mom a short notice. No transfer, no lease, no renovation, and no financing without both owners agreeing. The letter didn't threaten anyone. It just removed the space where they had been pretending my silence meant yes. Second chapter issued new access codes. The contractor took the duplex off his schedule. The leasing agent emailed me and said Derek had represented himself as the future sole owner. She apologized and confirmed she would not return without written approval from both of us. A week later, Derek sent me an offer for my half. It was far below market value. His email called it a family price. I declined. He called me, and I answered because I wanted to hear whether anything had changed. It hadn't. He said I was forcing him to choose between the house and his business. That's your choice. He said Grandma would hate what I was doing. Grandma left us equal shares. He went quiet, then hung up. Mom called from a different number after I stopped answering hers. She said Dad would have expected me to help my brother. Dad had spent most of his life cleaning up Derek's messes and calling it patience. I didn't let Mom use him as another signature. I told her she could email me if she had information about Grandma's belongings. Then I ended the call. The hardest part wasn't changing the lock codes. It was stopping myself from explaining over and over that I loved my family. They already knew I loved them. That was why they thought pressure would work. 3 weeks after the reinventory, an independent appraiser came to inspect the duplex. My access time started at 9. Derek started at 10. I arrived early and met Marisol in Grandma's dining room. The jewelry case sat on the table one last time. Marisol checked the final line in the binder and wrote, "Returned. Inventory complete." At 9:42, the lockbox flashed red outside. Derek had arrived early and tried his old code. He tried it again. Then my phone rang. I let it ring once. My phone lit up with a message from Derek. "The code doesn't work." I replied with the schedule. "Your access starts at 10. He called again. I put the phone face down. Through the dining room window, I watched him stand on the porch with one hand on the lockbox. A few months earlier, I would have gone outside. I would have opened the door. I would have apologized for making him wait 18 minutes at a house he did not own alone. I stayed inside. At exactly 10, his temporary code activated. He entered and met the appraiser in the hall. On Grandma's dining table, the old transfer deed was gone. In its place were 2 identical appraisal packets. One for Derek, one for me. For the first time in my family, equal didn't mean Derek got what he needed and I got praised for understanding. It meant equal. What would you have done if your family tried to turn your legal share into proof that you were selfish?